Lieutenant Commander Jack Miller stood tall as the airlock door opened. This was humanity's first meeting with the Galactic Council, and as the diplomatic officer of the Earthship Intrepid, the responsibility weighed heavy on his shoulders. "Remember," Captain Susan Harris whispered from behind him, "we represent all of Earth today." Miller nodded and stepped forward with his team. The alien space station was massive, with high ceilings that curved into strange shapes. The air smelled like cinnamon and metal. 5 aliens waited for them. Their bodies were thin and tall, with skin colors ranging from pale blue to deep purple. They had 4 arms each and large black eyes that never seemed to blink. "Greetings," the center alien said through a translator device. "I am Zixtal, senior diplomat of the Galactic Council. We welcome you to Council Space." Miller bowed slightly. "Thank you for your welcome. I am Lieutenant Commander Jack Miller of Earth's United Defense Force. We come in peace and friendship." The aliens looked at each other. Their movements were quick and nervous. "You come from Earth?" asked Zixtal. The translator couldn't hide the fear in the alien's voice. "Yes," Miller replied, confused by their reaction. "Third planet from our sun. We've been reaching out with radio signals for over a century." The 5 aliens stepped back. One turned to a console and began typing rapidly. Intelligence Officer Samantha Collins leaned close to Miller. "Something's wrong," she whispered. Her brown eyes narrowed with suspicion. "They're scared of us." Miller kept his diplomatic smile. "Is there a problem, Diplomat Zixtal?" The alien's 4 hands were shaking now. "Earth is classified in our records as a Category 12 death world, the highest danger rating possible." The human delegation looked at each other in confusion. "I don't understand," Miller said. "We've come on a peaceful mission. Your world has over 400 recorded natural disasters annually. You have predators that can kill in seconds. Your bacteria alone would devastate most council worlds." Zixtal's voice grew higher. "And your species? You evolved in this environment?" Captain Harris stepped forward. "We did, and we've adapted to it quite well." Collins nudged Miller and pointed discreetly to her tablet. "They're sending encrypted messages. I caught this one before it was scrambled." She showed him the screen. "Quarantine fleet requested. Contain human threat at all costs." Miller's diplomatic training kicked in. He kept his face calm despite the alarm bells ringing in his head. "Perhaps we should discuss these concerns openly, Diplomat Zixtal. There seems to be a misunderstanding." Zixtal's large eyes darted to Collins's tablet, then to the exits. "There is no misunderstanding, human. Your kind should never have been contacted." Miller took one step forward, hands open to show he was unarmed. "Please, let's talk about this." The alien closest to the console slammed a hand down on a red button. Alarms blared throughout the station. "Deathworlders," Zixtal shouted. "Security teams, contain them." Doors slid open around the chamber. Alien guards rushed in, carrying weapons that glowed with blue energy. "Run!" Miller yelled to his team. Collins was already moving. She grabbed Miller's arm and pulled him toward the airlock. Energy blasts hit the wall behind them, leaving smoking holes in the metal. Captain Harris pushed the rest of the team through the doorway. "Get back to the ship, now!" Miller and Collins sprinted through the corridors. More guards appeared ahead. Collins didn't hesitate. She grabbed a decorative pole from the wall and swung it like a staff, knocking 2 guards aside. "This way," she shouted, pointing to an emergency exit. They reached the docking bay just as more energy blasts erupted around them. The Intrepid's airlock was still open, with Marines providing covering fire. Miller and Collins jumped through the airlock. Miller hit the emergency close button as he fell to the floor. "Get us out of here," Captain Harris ordered from behind them. "All ships, emergency departure." As the Intrepid pulled away from the station, Miller watched through a viewport as alien warships began to appear around them. "They're going to attack just because we exist," Collins said, her face pale with shock. "Because we come from Earth." Miller's diplomatic smile was gone. "Then they've made a terrible mistake. They should have talked to us first." The Intrepid jumped to faster than light speed. leaving the alien station behind. But Miller knew this was just the beginning. Humanity's first contact had gone very wrong, and war was coming. Image description for Leonardo AI. A tense diplomatic meeting between uniformed human officers facing tall, four-armed blue and purple aliens with large black eyes. The scene shows a futuristic space station interior with high curved ceilings. One alien is pressing a red alarm button while others back away in fear. Energy weapons are being drawn as the humans begin to retreat toward an airlock. Admiral Eleanor Wright stood at the window of Earth Defense Command headquarters looking at the stars. 3 days had passed since the Intrepid returned with news of the failed first contact. She turned to face the room filled with Earth's military leaders. "The situation is clear," she said, her voice steady despite her anger. "The Galactic Council attacked our diplomatic team without provocation." On the main screen, images from the Intrepid's recordings played. Lieutenant Commander Miller and Officer Collins stood nearby, still showing signs of their narrow escape. "They called Earth a Category 12 death world," Miller explained. "They were terrified of us before we even spoke." Colonel Alan Garcia slammed his fist on the table. "And their response was to try to kill our people? We should strike back immediately." Wright nodded slowly. "We've received reports from our outer colonies. Council ships have attacked 3 human outposts already. They're not waiting for us to respond." Collins stepped forward. "Admiral, intercepted communications show they're spreading propaganda throughout their territory. They're calling humans violent barbarians who need to be contained." The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. Humanity had dreamed of peaceful contact with alien life for centuries. Instead, they faced extinction simply for existing. "What are our options?" asked Wright. Garcia pointed to a star map. "We could strike their nearest bases, show them humans aren't easy targets. But that won't solve the fundamental problem," Miller argued. "They fear us because they don't understand us." Wright walked to the center of the room. "We need to send a clear message, one that follows human rules of war." "Rules of war?" Collins asked. "Yes. Unlike the Council, humans have developed rules for warfare. We declare war formally. We identify valid targets. We avoid civilian casualties when possible." Wright's eyes were hard as steel. "The Council needs to understand this." For the next hour, they debated the response. Some wanted immediate attacks, others suggested trying diplomacy again. Wright listened to all views before making her decision. "The Council started this conflict," she said finally. "But we will respond as humans have for centuries, with a formal declaration." Wright drafted the message herself. It was short, but clear. "Until formal cessation of hostilities, all Council military assets are considered valid military targets." "Send it on all frequencies," she ordered. "Translate it into every alien language we've decoded." Miller watched as the message was transmitted. "Will they understand what this means?" Wright's face was grim. "They'll learn. We could have simply attacked without warning, as they did to us. Instead, we're declaring our intentions and limiting our targets to military assets." "It's a courtesy they didn't show us," Garcia noted. "That's what makes us human," Wright replied. "We know war too well to enter into it lightly." Across Council space, the message played on every communication channel. In the Grand Council chamber, Supreme Counselor Vritik watched with confusion as the translation appeared. "What does this mean?" Vritik demanded. "They're declaring their targets?" Junior military advisor Kaspar, younger than most Council officials, felt a chill run through his body. "They're declaring war, Supreme Counselor, formally." "War, but we have numerical superiority. Our fleet outnumbers theirs 100 to 1. Kaspar studied the human message again. "Numbers may not matter. They're not threatening everyone. Only military targets. That's unusual." Vritik dismissed the concern. "Send the containment fleet. These Deathworlders must be stopped before they spread." As Council ships moved to attack, they didn't understand the significance of the human declaration. In 4,000 years of Council history, no species had ever formally declared war. They simply fought or submitted. The humans had just shown restraint by declaring war rather than unleashing surprise attacks. It was a courtesy the Council didn't comprehend, and it would be their first of many mistakes. Image description for Leonardo AI. A tense war room scene with Admiral Eleanor Wright, a stern woman in a military uniform, standing before a holographic star map. Military officers sit around a circular table while Lieutenant Commander Miller and Officer Collins stand nearby. On the main screen is a formal declaration of war being translated into alien languages. The room is dimly lit with blue light from the displays, creating a serious atmosphere as Earth prepares its response to alien aggression. The Grand Council chamber was in chaos. Reports streamed in from across Council space, and none of them were good. 200 alien species had representatives present, and all of them were shouting at once. Supreme Counselor Vritik banged a ceremonial staff on the floor. "Order! We must have order!" The chamber slowly quieted. Vritik's pale green skin had turned almost white with stress. "The human threat is concerning, but not catastrophic. Our fleet outnumbers theirs by a vast margin." Junior military advisor Kaspar stepped forward nervously. He was young for his position, his blue scales still bright with youth. "Supreme Counselor, I must warn the Council about human capabilities." "What capabilities?" Vritik scoffed. "They have only 50 colony worlds, we control thousands." Kaspar activated a display in the center of the chamber. "This footage was captured 3 days ago. A human cruiser encountered one of our patrol fleets near the Orion sector. The recording showed a single human ship facing 7 Council vessels. What happened next shocked the chamber into silence. The human ship moved with impossible speed, its weapons tearing through the Council ships like they were made of paper. "One human vessel destroyed 7 of ours," Kaspar said quietly, "with minimal damage to itself." Vritik stared at the display. "How is this possible?" "We believe their ships are designed for combat. Ours are designed for peaceful exploration with defensive capabilities added later." Kaspar's voice was grim. "There's more. We've captured a human during our raid on one of their outposts." In a secure room deep beneath the Council chamber, Dr. Lisa Rodriguez sat calmly at a table. 2 guards watched her nervously, their weapons ready. The door opened and Kaspar entered with Vritik. "Human," Vritik said, "you will tell us about your species' military capabilities." Rodriguez smiled slightly. "I'm a xenobiologist, not a soldier, but I'll tell you what any human knows." "Why are you not afraid?" Vritik demanded. "You are captured by the most powerful alliance in the galaxy." "I've been in worse situations," Rodriguez said simply. "On Earth, I once survived 2 weeks in a desert after my vehicle broke down. I've climbed mountains where the air is too thin to breathe normally. I've swum in oceans with predators that could swallow me whole." The aliens looked at each other in confusion. "You must understand," Rodriguez continued. "Humans have been fighting wars for our entire history, not because we want to, but because we had to survive. Our planet forced us to become strong." "Strong enough to threaten the Council?" Kaspar asked. Rodriguez's expression grew serious. "You attacked us first. That was a mistake." Before Vritik could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. A guard burst into the room. "We're under attack," the guard shouted. "A human ship has breached our defenses." Kaspar rushed to a monitor. On the screen, a human vessel had docked with the station. Security footage showed armed humans moving through the corridors with precision. "How many?" Vritik demanded. 20, the guard replied, voice shaking. 20? Against our 300 guards? Vritik laughed nervously. "They cannot succeed." Rodriguez smiled again. "They're not here to take the station. They're here for me." The door exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped Captain Jack Miller, now wearing combat armor. Behind him stood a team of human soldiers. "Dr. Rodriguez," Miller said, with a nod. "Ready to go home?" "Perfect timing, Captain," she replied, standing casually. Kaspar and Vritik backed away, shocked by the human's sudden appearance. Miller pointed his weapon at them. You two are coming with us. The council needs to understand who they're dealing with. As they were led away, Vritik whispered to Kaspar, "How could 20 humans defeat our security so easily?" Kaspar watched the efficient movements of the human soldiers. "Because they understand war in a way we never have. We've known peace for 4,000 years. They've known war for their entire existence. And for the first time, the council began to truly fear the Deathworlders." Image description for Leonardo AI. A dramatic rescue scene inside an alien space station. Captain Miller in combat armor leads human soldiers through smoke from a breached doorway. Dr. Rodriguez stands calmly at a table while two alien figures, the tall, pale green Vritik and the younger blue-scaled Kaspar, back away in shock. The room has alien architecture with curved walls and strange symbols, bathed in flashing red alarm lights. Human soldiers in tactical gear aim advanced weapons, showing military precision against a backdrop of chaos. 3 months had passed since the first contact, and the war was not going well for the Galactic Council. Lieutenant Paul Davis crouched behind a fallen metal column on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. His squad of 5 Marines waited for his signal. "Target in sight," Davis whispered into his comm. "Council base has minimal defenses. They still don't understand how humans fight." The Council had built a research base on Europa, believing they were safe so deep in the solar system. They were wrong. "Remember," Davis told his team, "we take the base intact. We need their data on other Council worlds." Corporal Frank Rodriguez checked his weapon. "They outnumber us 20-1, sir." Davis smiled. "Then it's an even fight." He gave the signal and the Marines moved out, using the icy terrain for cover. The Council guards were stationed at obvious entry points, but the humans didn't take the obvious route. They scaled an ice cliff that the aliens had deemed impossible to climb. Within 15 minutes, Davis and his team had entered the base through a maintenance hatch. The aliens never saw them coming. Davis activated a device on his wrist. It emitted a high-pitched sound that was harmless to humans, but painful to Council species. The alien guards dropped their weapons, covering their ear equivalents in pain. "Base secured," Davis reported as his team rounded up the Council researchers. "No casualties." Back on Earth, engineer Olivia Martinez worked frantically in her lab. Admiral Wright watched as Martinez adjusted a weapon prototype. "Will it work?" Wright asked. Martinez nodded. "The Council species have different biology than us. Their nervous systems can't handle certain frequencies. This weapon will disable them without killing them." Wright picked up the device. "Non-lethal weapons. The Council doesn't understand why we would create such things." "Because we've had enough of killing in our history," Martinez replied. "We know its cost." In the command center nearby, Captain Miller and Commander Collins studied a star map with Admiral Wright. Red dots showed Council worlds while blue marked human territories. "Operation Thunderclap is ready," Miller announced. 30 simultaneous strikes against Council military bases. Collins pointed to civilian centers on the map. "All attacks avoid population centers. We're only targeting military installations." Wright nodded in approval. "The Council needs to understand we could hit their cities if we wanted to. We're choosing not to." As human ships jumped across Council space, the aliens were unprepared for the coordinated assault. On 30 worlds, human forces struck with precision, destroying military bases while leaving civilian areas untouched. On the Council homeworld, Kaspar stood before the Emergency Committee. Supreme Counselor Vritik had been removed from power after multiple failures. "The humans are showing restraint," Kaspar explained. "They're avoiding civilian targets deliberately." An elder council member scoffed. "That's absurd. Why would they do that?" "Because they're following their rules of war," Kaspar said. "I've studied their history. They've developed complicated rules about how to fight. They distinguish between soldiers and civilians." "But why?" Another council member asked. "War is about destroying your enemy." Kaspar shook his head. "Not for humans. For them, war has limits. They're sending us a message." In the Council propaganda ministry, officials struggled to explain the continuing defeats. The official narrative that humans were mindless barbarians didn't match the evidence. The humans fought with discipline and restraint that confused the Council species. A small resistance faction within the Council, led by Kazpar, began to understand that humans were showing mercy. But the majority of Council leaders remained blind to this truth. On the captured Council ship, Miller interrogated a high-ranking alien officer. "Why did you attack us? We came in peace." The alien looked away. "You are Deathworlders. Your kind always destroys everything they touch." "Yet we haven't destroyed your civilian worlds," Miller pointed out. "We could have, but we chose not to." The alien had no answer. The concept of restraint in warfare was foreign to Council species, and that misunderstanding was costing them the war. Image description for Leonardo AI. A tense military scene on Europa's icy surface. Lieutenant Paul Davis, in advanced white and blue space combat armor, leads a small team of Marines scaling an ice cliff. In the background sits a futuristic alien research base with curved architecture and glowing blue lights, unaware of the approaching humans. The scene is illuminated by the distant sun, and Jupiter looms large in the black sky above. The Marines are using specialized climbing gear, moving with tactical precision against the stark, frozen landscape. Council scientist Virkon studied the human test subject through a reinforced glass wall. Unlike most Council species, Virkon was curious rather than fearful. The human appeared calm, despite being captive for 2 weeks. "You seem relaxed, Sergeant." "Washington," Virkon noted, speaking through a translator. Kevin Washington looked up from the book he was reading. "No point in stressing about things I can't control." What Virkon didn't know was that Washington had allowed himself to be captured. As part of a special operations team, his mission was to infiltrate this research facility and learn what the Council knew about humans. "Your vital signs barely change even under stress tests," Virkon said. "How is this possible?" Washington shrugged. "Humans adapt, it's what we do." Over the next few days, Virkon conducted various tests. He was surprised when Washington willingly answered questions about Earth and human biology. "Why do you share this information?" Virkon asked. "Aren't you afraid we'll use it against your species?" Washington smiled. "Understanding each other better might lead to peace. Isn't that worth the risk?" Gradually, Virkon began spending more time talking with Washington than running tests. The scientist had never met a species like humans before, adaptable, resilient, and complex in ways the Council hadn't anticipated. "Your Council thinks we're monsters because we come from a dangerous world," Washington explained one day. "But our harsh planet taught us to protect each other, to work together, to value life because it can end so quickly." Meanwhile, in a secure facility deep in Council space, senior officials met in secret. The humans continued to advance, a military commander reported. "Our conventional tactics are failing." An aged Council member leaned forward. "Then we must use unconventional means. I propose we deploy biological weapons against their colonies." The room fell silent. Biological warfare had been banned in Council space for millennia. "We have no choice," the commander agreed. "These Deathworlders must be stopped at any cost." What they didn't know was that Commander Samantha Collins had infiltrated their communications. On the Earthship Vigilant, she decoded the intercepted message. "Admiral," Collins reported to Wright over a secure channel. "The Council is planning to use biological weapons. They're targeting our colonies on Proxima Centauri." Wright's face hardened. "Send warning to all colonies. Prepare countermeasures." Back at the research facility, Virkon entered Washington's room with a troubled expression. "What's wrong?" Washington asked. After a moment's hesitation, Virkon spoke. "The Council leadership has authorized biological weapons against your colonies." "Why are you telling me this?" Washington asked, though he already knew the answer. "Because it's wrong," Virkon said. "I've studied your people. You're not the monsters our leaders claim. You could have destroyed our civilian worlds, but you chose not to." Washington stood up. "Then help me stop this. There are other humans here, aren't there? Prisoners like me." Virkon nodded slowly. 12 others, in the lower levels. Take me to them, Washington said. That night, alarms blared throughout the facility. 13 humans, led by Sergeant Washington, fought their way to the communications center. Using Vircon's access codes, Washington sent the bioweapon plans to Earth Command before escaping with the other prisoners. 3 days later, Admiral Wright authorized a precise strike on the Council's bioweapon facility. The human fleet destroyed, only the research center leaving surrounding civilian areas untouched. Afterward, Wright sent a message to the Council. Escalation will be met with escalation. Choose wisely. When the message played in the Council chamber, Caspar turned to the other leaders. They knew about our plans. They could have retaliated against our civilian worlds, but they chose a surgical strike instead. What does this mean? Asked a Council elder. It means, Caspar said, that perhaps we have completely misunderstood the Deathworlders. Their harsh world didn't make them monsters. It taught them the value of life and the rules of war. For the first time, some Council members began to wonder if peace with humans might be possible after all. Image description for Leonardo AI. Inside an alien laboratory, Council scientist Vircon, a tall, thin alien with pale purple skin and 4 arms, stands near a transparent containment wall, studying Sergeant Kevin Washington. Washington sits calmly on a simple bed reading a book. The room has advanced alien technology with floating holographic displays showing human biological readings. The lighting is clinical and blue-tinted, with alien script running across various monitors. Vircon's expression shows scientific curiosity rather than fear as he observes the seemingly relaxed human prisoner. 6 months into the war, the Galactic Council had split into 3 distinct factions. In the Grand Council chamber, representatives argued loudly as Caspar watched from his seat. The war faction, led by General Dexval, pounded his fist on the table. We must commit all resources to destroying the humans. They are an existential threat. Across the chamber, Ambassador Tirlos of the Peace faction stood calmly. The humans have shown restraint at every turn. They target only military assets and avoid civilian casualties. These are not the actions of mindless barbarians. The third group, the Isolation faction, sat quietly between them. They wanted neither war nor peace, but to build a wall between human and Council space and never interact again. Caspar had risen to prominence as the Council's expert on human behavior. The humans are sending a peace delegation to Neutral Station 7, he announced. They wish to discuss terms for ending this conflict. General Dexval scoffed. It's a trap. They seek to lure us into lowering our defenses. I volunteer to meet with them, Caspar said. We have nothing to lose by listening. Ambassador Nicole Grant stepped off the human shuttle onto Neutral Station 7. The station belonged to the Traders Guild, a mercantile group that remained neutral in the conflict. Grant wore a simple blue uniform with Earth's insignia. Behind her stood Captain Jack Miller, now commanding the battleship Defiant that had escorted her. Remember, Grant said quietly to Miller, our job is to end this war, not continue it. Miller nodded. I'll keep the ship at ready status. The Council has factions that might prefer we don't leave here alive. Grant met Caspar in a circular chamber designed for diplomatic meetings. Station security guards from the Traders Guild stood along the walls, ensuring neutrality. Ambassador Grant, Caspar greeted her with a bow. I appreciate your willingness to meet. The people of Earth prefer peace to war, Grant replied. We always have. They sat at a table made from transparent material. Grant placed a data device on the surface. Our terms are simple, she explained. The Council acknowledges human sovereignty over our current territories. We establish clear borders. Non-aggression pacts are signed. Trade relations begin slowly under neutral supervision. Caspar studied the terms. These are surprisingly reasonable. Did you expect us to demand surrender? Grant asked. Or territorial concessions? Many in the Council did, Caspar admitted. That's not our way, Grant said. We want peace, not conquest. As they discussed details, Captain Miller's security team detected unusual energy readings. He checked his scanner and immediately contacted Grant through her earpiece. Ambassador, we have a situation. War faction ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They're charging weapons. Grant kept her expression neutral as she continued speaking with Caspar. Miller slipped into the room, moving to her side. We need to leave now, he whispered. They're planning to assassinate both of you. Caspar overheard. General Dexval, he said grimly. He would rather continue the war than admit he was wrong about humans. The station shook as the first shots hit its shields. Alarms blared through the corridors. This way, Miller said, leading them toward an emergency exit. We need to reach the Defiant. As they ran, war faction troops beamed onto the station. Miller pushed Grant and Caspar behind him as energy bolts flew past them. He fired back, his shots precise and controlled. Why are you protecting me? Caspar asked as they took cover. I'm your enemy. No, Miller replied, checking around the corner. You're a peace delegate under my protection. That makes you my responsibility. They reached the docking bay just as more troops appeared. Miller's security team provided covering fire as they boarded the human shuttle. As the shuttle raced toward the Defiant, Caspar watched the human soldiers. They fought efficiently but without the bloodthirst Council propaganda had described. They protected civilians, even alien ones, at risk to themselves. The Defiant opened fire on the war faction ships, targeting weapons and engines, but avoiding critical systems that would cause massive casualties. Your ship could destroy them, Caspar noted as they reached the Defiant's bridge. Why disable them instead? Captain Miller looked at him. Because unnecessary death doesn't end wars, Ambassador. It prolongs them. For the first time, Caspar truly understood the Deathworlders. Their harsh planet hadn't made them cruel. It had taught them the value of restraint, of measured response, of mercy. The Council had badly misjudged humanity, and that mistake might yet cost them everything. Image description for Leonardo AI. A tense diplomatic scene in a futuristic circular chamber with transparent walls and floating lights. Ambassador Nicole Grant, a confident woman in a blue uniform, with Earth insignia, and Caspar, a tall blue-scaled alien diploma. Dr. Lisa Rodriguez worked late into the night on the Earthship Intrepid. After her rescue from Council custody, she had thrown herself into studying Council biology and history. Caspar, who had requested asylum after the failed peace talks, sat across from her. This doesn't make sense, Rodriguez said, examining ancient Council records they had captured during raids. The classification of Earth as a Category 12 death world was made over 2,000 years ago. But humans weren't spacefaring then. Caspar leaned forward. The Council has only encountered one other Category 12 world in our history. The species there was called the Krell. What happened to them? Rodriguez asked. Caspar's blue scales darkened with shame. The records say they were contained before they could threaten the galaxy. I always assumed that meant quarantine. But now I wonder. Rodriguez's eyes widened. You think the Council destroyed them before they even left their planet? I need to check the ancestral archives, Caspar said. They contain the complete history of the Council, but they're stored on the Council homeworld. In Admiral Wright's office, Captain Miller and Commander Collins studied Caspar's information. If the Council has a history of destroying Deathworld species preemptively, that would explain their immediate hostility, Collins said. Miller nodded. We need those archives. A covert mission could work. The archives are too important to risk failure, Wright decided. Collins, you'll lead the intelligence team. Miller, you'll command the extraction. Lieutenant Davis and his Marines will provide security. 3 days later, a small human stealth ship entered orbit around the Council homeworld. Using technology developed by Olivia Martinez, it remained invisible to Council sensors. Remember, Miller told the team as they prepared to drop to the surface. This is an intelligence operation, not an attack. We get the archives and leave without being detected if possible. Collins checked her equipment. The archives are located beneath the Council's main library. Security will be minimal. They never expected anyone to reach their homeworld. The team dropped to the surface using personal stealth suits. They moved through the sprawling Council capital, a city of soaring towers and curved architecture. Few civilians were out at night, and those who were paid no attention to the shadows moving among them. They reached the library without incident. Collins used Kaspar's access codes to enter the lower levels where the archives were stored. "Incredible," she whispered as they entered a vast chamber. Crystalline data storage units lined the walls, glowing with soft blue light. The complete history of the Council. Davis positioned his Marines at key points. "Make it quick. We're deep in enemy territory." Collins connected her devices to the archive system. "I'm searching for records on Deathworld species." "Got it." "What?" She found shocked her. "Captain, the Council didn't just destroy the Krell. They've eliminated 7 different species from Deathworld planets over the past 5,000 years. Miller looked over her shoulder at the data. All preemptive strikes. None of these species had even developed spaceflight yet. "There's more," Collins said, her voice tight. "The Council founders genetically modified themselves. They removed their capacity for violence, their aggressive instincts. They engineered themselves for perfect peace. And created their greatest weakness," Miller realized. "They can't understand species that evolved through conflict. They can't comprehend controlled violence or restraint." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the building. "We've been detected," Davis shouted from his position. "Council security forces converging on our location. Do we have what we need?" Miller asked Collins. She nodded, disconnecting her devices. "Everything on their treatment of Deathworld species and their biological engineering." Davis and his Marines moved to defensive positions as Council guards appeared at the chamber entrance. Energy weapons fired, filling the air with blazing light. "Extraction route compromised," Davis reported, returning fire. "We need an alternate exit." Miller pointed to a maintenance shaft. "This way." They fought their way through the tunnels beneath the city, Council forces in pursuit. Despite being outnumbered, the human team moved with precision born from countless generations of conflict. They reached the extraction point just as dawn broke over the Council city. The stealth ship decloaked long enough for them to board before vanishing again into the sky. Back on Earth, Admiral Wright reviewed the stolen archives with her senior staff. "Now we understand," she said quietly. "The Council fears us because they fear what they once were. They cannot comprehend a species that masters violence without being consumed by it." Miller nodded. "Their fear of Deathworlders isn't about us. It's about themselves and what they chose to leave behind." The truth was clear now. The war had begun because of a misunderstanding thousands of years in the making. Image description for Leonardo AI. A tense scene inside a vast archive chamber, with crystalline data storage units glowing with blue light along curved walls. Commander Collins, a focused woman in a dark stealth suit, connects devices to an alien console while Captain Miller looks over her shoulder, expression grim at what they're discovering. Lieutenant Davis and his Marines in combat positions guard the entrances as alarm lights flash red. The architecture is alien and elegant with high ceilings and strange symbols. Through a large window, the alien Council homeworld city is visible at night, a sprawling metropolis of curved towers and floating structures under 2 moons. 1 year after first contact, Admiral Eleanor Wright stood on the observation deck of Lunar Base Alpha, looking down at Earth. Behind her, preparations for the final peace conference were underway. Representatives from all Council factions would arrive soon. "Admiral," Ambassador Grant said, joining her at the window. "The Council delegates have entered the solar system. They'll dock within the hour." Wright nodded. "And our security?" "Captain Miller has the Defiant on patrol. Lieutenant Davis and his Marines are stationed throughout the base. Olivia Martinez has installed her non-lethal defense systems." Wright turned from the window. "Let's hope we don't need any of them." The conference chamber on Luna was designed to appear neutral. A circular table dominated the center, with the flags of Earth and the Council displayed side by side. As human representatives took their places, The council delegates entered. Kaspar led the peace faction. His presence had helped convince enough council members to attend. The isolation faction sent 3 nervous representatives. Most surprising was General Dexval's attendance for the war faction. "I'm surprised you came, General," Wright said as they took their seats. Dexval's red scales shimmered with tension. "I came to see my enemy face to face, and to ensure no deception occurs." Ambassador Grant stood to open the talks. "We gather today to end a conflict that began with misunderstanding. Thanks to the archives we recovered, we now understand why the Council feared humans so greatly." She activated a display showing the history of Council encounters with Deathworld species. "The fear wasn't irrational. It was based on your past, but humans are not the Krell or any other species you've encountered." Dexval interrupted. "You invaded our homeworld. You stole our sacred archives." "We sought the truth," Grant replied calmly. "And the truth is that both our peoples have made mistakes." As the talks continued, sensors detected multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel near the moon. "Admiral?" Miller's voice came through Wright's earpiece. "War faction ships just arrived. They're not responding to hails." Wright kept her expression neutral. "Maintain position, Captain. Let's see what they're planning." In the conference room, Dexval suddenly stood up. "Enough talk. You Deathworlders cannot be trusted." He pulled out a hidden weapon and aimed it at Grant. Before anyone could react, the doors burst open. War. Faction soldiers rushed in, weapons ready. "This conference is over," Dexval announced. "All humans are to be detained." Wright remained seated, utterly calm. "I wouldn't do that, General." "You are outnumbered, Admiral," Dexval sneered. Wright touched a control on her wrist. "Ms. Martinez, if you please." Throughout the base, hidden emitters activated. A specific frequency filled the air, one that Martinez had designed based on Council biology. The war faction soldiers froze, then dropped their weapons as their muscles temporarily paralyzed. Dexval staggered, his weapon falling from numb fingers. "What have you done?" "Non-lethal frequency disruption," Wright explained, standing up. "It targets your nervous system temporarily. No permanent damage. Another example of human restraint." Marine security teams entered, securing the war faction. "Soldiers." Davis nodded to Wright. "All hostiles contained, Admiral, no casualties." Wright faced the stunned council delegates. "We could have killed you all. We chose not to. That is the difference between humans and the monsters you feared." As Dexval was led away, Wright addressed the remaining delegates. "Now, shall we continue our peace talks without further interruptions?" Hours later, the Galactic Compact was signed. The war officially ended. Under its terms, humanity would maintain sovereignty over its territories while joining a reformed council structure. Human ships would serve as peacekeepers for the galaxy, protecting other species while a new understanding of controlled strength was developed. Captain Jack Miller was appointed as the first human representative to the new council. Standing on the observation deck with Kay,